Hi students, today we are starting on a new standard in our unit. We're starting to talk about synthetic materials and how they come from natural resources and impact society. Today's learning target is LT7. By the end of today's lesson, you need to know what a synthetic material is and how they are formed through natural resources. So let's first talk about what a synthetic material is. And we'll learn about it by comparing it to natural materials. So a natural material is any material that comes directly from nature. So these four pictures here represent natural materials. So some exact examples are cotton, wool, wood, and silk. Okay, these are things made in nature. A synthetic material, on the other hand, is made in a chemical laboratory instead of nature. It's usually made through modifications by humans. So these four pictures down here are just some examples of synthetic materials. We have Kevlar, we have plastics, synthetic rubbers, even some medicines. They are made synthetically in the lab. Now, even though something is synthetic, all synthetic materials originally came from natural resources. That's a key idea that you really need to understand. So a lot of things that are not natural are, in fact, originally coming from natural resources. Most synthetic materials in the world are made from what we call petrochemicals, which come from petroleum, which is a non-renewable resource that is dug out of the ground. Now, let's talk about the advantages of using synthetic materials. First of all, synthetic materials are often a lot cheaper to manufacture. So if you take the example of the cotton versus, petroleum plastic, a lot of clothes today are made from nylon or polyester, which are actually made from synthetic materials, which actually originally came from petroleum. Um, and on the other hand, there's some clothing made out of cotton. But the thing with cotton is, even though it's natural, it takes a lot of time, water, soil, and a lot of labor just to grow the cotton to produce a certain product with cotton. So it's a lot easier to just dig petroleum out of the ground and make, the synthetic plastic or synthetic material, and a lot harder to manufacture enough cotton to meet the same kind of demand for certain products. A second advantage is that synthetic materials are often better quality and stronger than synthetic or similar products made from natural materials. So these are just some examples of some synthetic materials. A lot of everyday materials. Again, a lot of clothes today are made out of synthetic materials. This is stockings. They're made from nylon. It's very tough, and it's known as a fabric that resists a lot of stains and water damage. So nylon is commonly used in a lot of clothes. Kevlar is a product that is really strong and used in vests like this. It's strong enough to stop bullets. It's known to be 5 times stronger than steel. It's unable to melt at high temperatures, and it's lightweight, so it has a lot of properties that we like, and it's made synthetically in the lab. Now let's talk about plastic, because plastic is a synthetic material that is really, really commonly used in so many products today. It's a synthetic material made out of natural gas, coal, plants, minerals, and mainly petroleum. And plastics can be molded into so many different shapes, and that's probably why it's so commonly used in so many products. There's actually two types of plastic. The first type of plastic is called thermoplastic. Thermo means heat. So thermoplastic is plastic that can be heated up and softened and remolded. So this picture right here actually shows you kind of like what happens to the molecules in thermoplastics once they're heated up. So you can see here, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger for you. If you see here, at the cooled state, the molecules are pretty close together, but when you heat them up, the molecules are going to start to move around, and once they move around, it becomes a soft and softer material that can be shaped into a new shape and then cooled again. On the other hand, there's another type of plastic called thermosetting plastic. This type of plastic can be melted once and molded, but after it's molded and cooled, it can't be remelted to make something new. So you can see here, this is the original configuration of thermoset molecules when it's cooled, and when it gets heated up, it doesn't change. And so this type of plastic is really good for things involving heat, because you don't want plastics melting every time you heat something up. So if you think about some kitchen tools that are made out of harder plastic, those are made from thermosetting plastics. Whereas a lot of recyclable materials are made from thermoplastic polymers, because that's one of the ways they can be recycled, by heating them up and remolding them. Now let's talk about how plastic is made. So first step, crude oil, which is petroleum that's straight drilled from the ground, first is obtained, and then it gets shipped to an oil refinery. And this is just for you. Remember, at the oil refinery, what they do is they heat up the crude oil, and they start separating them into different types of fuel. And you know that petroleum makes all of these different kinds of fuel, and it's because crude oil is usually a mixture of all these different fuels, and to separate them, they usually boil them and cool them off at different temperatures. And so one of the ingredients of crude oil is ethane and propane, and those are the things that are usually used to make plastic, and we'll find it right here. Okay, so once they extract that out, then they heat and split the ethane and propane into a different molecule called ethylene and propylene. And they're just smaller molecules. And once they do that, they heat it and split it up. Then they combine ethylene and propylene with chemicals, and they melt it in a blender, kind of like this. And then what happens is it goes back and it starts cooling. And let's go to the next step. After that, oh, and I'm gonna actually go back to this picture right here. After that, what happens is the melted plastic is cooled, and then once it's cooled, the cooled plastic is chopped up into little nurdles. And you can see here, this is the cooled plastic getting chopped up into these pellets, which are called nurdles. This is a picture of the nurdles up close. Maybe you've seen something like this before. But this is like the raw form of plastic that gets shipped to factories, and the factories can melt this down and make new products, which you see here. This is melted plastic that's cast into a mold, and when it cools, it makes these plastic bottle caps. Okay, now finally we are going to start talking about how these plastics are manufactured into different products. So you know that there's so many different forms of plastic, and there's so many different shapes and products made from plastic. So now let's investigate, how does that actually work? So there's usually 3 different processes that we use. The first one is called extrusion molding. In this process, the pellets are heated, forced into molds, the shape of the product, and cooled. So you can see here the nurdles are being melted, and then we have the cooling chamber, and this is the product. And usually tubes and pipes and plastic wraps, nylon fabrics are made from extrusion molding, and these are just some of the common products made. Second, we have what we call injection molding. In this model, we have melted pellets as are squeezed into molds, and they harden quickly. So this is a picture of that. So we have the pellets, they're being squeezed into these molds, and once it cools under pressure here, there's this part that's shaped in that way. A lot of plastic toys, plastic cups, a lot of larger plastic objects are made through injection molding like this. Finally, we have what we call blow molding. In this configuration, we have a piece of plastic that's put into a mold, and we blow air into this plastic to actually make a hollow plastic object. And you can see all of our plastic bottles are made actually by blow molding. It's also called extrusion blow molding. And that's it. Next time we meet, we're going to be talking about the impact that plastics have on our environment.